When my daughter told me she'd exposed our family secrets to millions of strangers online, I collapsed in our kitchen, shattering my favorite coffee mug along with my dignity. Days later, I was signing papers to keep our family home from being seized by federal agents. That's when I realized parenting isn't just raising a child, it's creating the person who might one day destroy you. If you're watching this, hit that subscribe button and tell me where you're from in the comments. Because trust me, this story twists harder than a tornado through a trailer park, and you'll want to be here for every shocking turn. I never thought I'd be the mother whose daughter would betray her for internet fame. But there I was, 52 years old, widowed for 3 years, staring at my phone as Emily's face filled the screen. Her video had already hit 2 million views. My mom acts like we're the perfect family, she was saying, her voice dripping with that self-righteous tone only a 22-year-old can perfect. But our wealth came from lies. My dad wasn't the businessman everyone thought he was. And my mom? She's living in a fantasy world, pretending everything's fine while our family's built on secrets. The comments were worse. Expose them, girl. Rich people always hiding something. Your mom sounds like a total Karen. I tried calling Emily immediately. Straight to voicemail. I texted, please call me. We need to talk. Nothing. My hands were shaking so badly, I could barely hold my coffee mug. When it slipped from my fingers and shattered on our imported Italian tile my late husband Richard had insisted on installing despite the cost, it felt like the perfect metaphor for my life. Mrs. Harrington? I looked up to see Diane, our housekeeper of 15 years, standing in the doorway. The concern in her eyes made everything worse. I've fine, ilid. Just clumsy this morning. But I wasn't fine. Emily had no idea what she'd done. She thought she was exposing some vague family hypocrisy, but she'd accidentally tugged at a thread that could unravel everything, including her own future. The truth about Richard's business dealings wasn't just embarrassing. It was dangerous. Script part separator ===. I spent the next 24 hours trying to reach Emily. She'd moved out 6 months ago, sharing an apartment with 2 friends while finishing her degree. Each call went straight to voicemail. Her roommates claimed they didn't know where she was. I was beginning to think she was purposely avoiding me when my doorbell rang at 7 a.m. the following day. It wasn't Emily. It was 2 men in dark suits. Mrs. Harrington? I'm Special Agent Wilson. This is Special Agent Trent. FBI. May we come in? My heart nearly stopped. This was happening faster than I'd imagined. What's this about? I asked, though I already knew. We have some questions about Harrington Financial Holdings and your late husband's business practices. We also need to discuss a recent viral video posted by your daughter. I led them to our living room, the one Richard had spent a fortune renovating. The crystal chandelier that had once seemed elegant now felt gaudy, a shameful display of wealth we maybe never deserved. Mrs. Harrington, are you aware that your daughter has made allegations of financial impropriety against your late husband's company? She's young and confused, I said, my mouth dry. She doesn't know what she's talking about. Agent Wilson's expression didn't change. Unfortunately, her comments prompted us to accelerate an investigation that's been ongoing for some time. My blood turned to ice. Ongoing investigation? We have reason to believe your husband was involved in a significant securities fraud operation. The evidence suggests approximately $40 million of investor funds were misappropriated. I felt dizzy. That's impossible. Richard was. Mrs. Harrington. Agent Trent interrupted. We have a warrant to search these premises and to freeze certain assets associated with Harrington Financial Holdings. He handed me a document. The words swam before my eyes. You're seizing our house? I whispered. Not at this time. But we are placing restrictions on the property. You cannot sell or transfer ownership until our investigation concludes. After they left, I sat alone in that massive house, everything in it suddenly feeling tainted. My phone pinged with a notification. Emily had posted another video, this one with 5 million views already. My mom still hasn't contacted me, she was saying. I guess the truth hurts. If she only knew. The truth didn't just hurt. The truth was about to destroy us all. Script part separator equals. I finally reached Emily that evening. She answered on the sixth ring, her voice wary. What do you want, Mom? What do I want? My voice shook. The FBI was at our house this morning because of your video. Silence on the line. Then, what are you talking about? They're investigating Dad's company. They've frozen our assets. Do you understand what you've done? Mom, I just talked about how fake our perfect family image is. I never said Dad did anything illegal. Well, you mentioned his mysterious business dealings and how our money came from questionable sources. What did you think would happen? I don't know. Maybe that you'd finally be honest with me? Her voice cracked. Everyone thinks we're this perfect family, but Dad's gone, and you act like nothing changed. You're living in this mansion alone, preserving it like a museum to him. Emily, listen to me. You need to take those videos down.
Now. No.
I've gotten thousands of messages from people saying my videos help them feel less alone about their dysfunctional families. This isn't about your social media career. The FBI is involved. Maybe they should be. Maybe it's time someone looked into how Dad really made all that money. My blood ran cold. What do you know? Nothing specific. Just that whenever I asked about the business, everyone got weird. Dad would change the subject. You'd suddenly need to check something in the kitchen. The doorbell rang again. Through the peephole, I saw Martin Keller, Richard's longtime business partner and our family attorney. Emily, I have to go. Please take down those videos. We'll talk tomorrow. Mom. I hung up and opened the door. Martin's normally composed face was ashen. Barbara, we have a serious problem. Have you seen the news? The FBI was already here. He pushed past me into the house. It's worse than that. Preston Financial is filing a lawsuit against Richard's estate. They're claiming he defrauded them of $22 million. That's impossible, I whispered. Martin's eyes met mine.
Is it?
Because I've been looking at the books and there are discrepancies. What kind of discrepancies? The kind that could send people to prison, he said gravely. Even people who had no direct involvement. The threat hung in the air between us. You mean me, I said. The courts don't look kindly on willful ignorance, Barbara. And the deadline to respond to this lawsuit is 10 days away. Script part separator equals. Martin paced our living room, his expensive shoes clicking against the Italian tile. Barbara, this is bad. Really bad. Emily's videos have triggered exactly what Richard feared most. I sank onto the sofa. What are you talking about? He ran his hand through his thinning hair. Richard knew this day might come. That's why he set up certain protections. Protections? Martin lowered his voice. There's a safety deposit box at First National. Richard made arrangements that only you could access it in case of emergency. My heart pounded. Why didn't you tell me this before? Because Richard said I should only tell you if there was no other choice. He gestured around the room. FBI agents at your door? A lawsuit from Preston Financial? Emily's videos going viral? We're out of choices, Barbara. What's in the box? Documentation. Insurance, Richard called it. My phone buzzed. A text from Emily. Mom, I'm getting weird messages from people claiming to be Dad's investors. What's going on? I showed Martin the text. It's starting, he muttered. The wolves are circling. You need to get to that box tomorrow. First thing. After Martin left, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Richard, the man I thought I knew. We'd been married for 25 years. How could he have hidden something so significant from me? By morning, Emily's first video had reached 10 million views. The second was at 8 million. My social media accounts were flooded with hateful messages from strangers. Local news stations were calling. A photographer was parked at the end of our driveway. I put on large sunglasses, threw a scarf over my hair, and drove to First National Bank. The manager recognized me immediately. Mrs. Harrington, we've been expecting you. Expecting me? He lowered his voice. Mr. Keller called ahead. Said you'd be coming for the special access. Minutes later, I was alone in a small room with Richard's safety deposit box. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside was a USB drive, a small notebook, and an envelope with my name on it. I opened the envelope first. Barbara, Richard's familiar handwriting read, "If you're reading this, I'm gone, and everything has fallen apart.
I'm sorry.
What I've done can't be undone. But you can still save yourself and Emily. The people I've crossed won't hesitate to destroy you both to get what they want." My breath caught in my throat. Follow these instructions exactly. Trust no one.
Not even Martin.
Script part separator ===.
Not even Martin.
The words hit me like a slap. My husband's closest friend and advisor. The man who just sent me to this bank. I continued reading Richard's letter. Martin is compromised. He helped me move money through offshore accounts that Preston Financial never knew about. He takes a 20% cut. If the truth comes out, he'll throw you to the wolves to save himself. The USB drive contains account information for $15 million hidden in the Cayman Islands. The notebook has names and dates, evidence of what Preston CEO Thomas Preston did that forced me to take drastic measures. He's not the victim he'll claim to be. I stuffed everything into my purse with shaking hands and rushed to my car. As I pulled out of the parking lot, a black sedan followed. 3 blocks later, it was still behind me. I made a sudden right turn. The sedan followed. Then another right. Still there. My phone rang. Unknown number. "Mrs. Harrington," a man's voice said when I answered. "Did you find what you were looking for at the bank?" My blood froze. Who is this? Someone who knows what Richard took from us. The box won't save you. Tell us where the money is, or your daughter will be next. The call ended. I pulled over, heart hammering. I dialed Emily's number. No answer. Texted. "Where are you? Emergency.
Call me."
Nothing. The black sedan cruised slowly past me, the driver's face hidden behind dark glasses. I called Martin. "Barbara?
Did you get the box?"
Where's Emily?" I demanded. How would I know? Someone's following me. They threatened Emily. Silence. Then, "Come to my office."
Now.
"Don't stop anywhere. You think I trust you?" I laughed bitterly. "Richard warned me about you." "What are you talking about?" "The letter, Martin.
He told me everything.
About the offshore accounts. Your 20% cut." Another long pause. "Barbara, you don't understand what you're involved in. Richard lied to everyone, including you. Especially you." "I'm going to find Emily," I said. "And then I'm going to the FBI with everything Richard left me." "That would be a terrible mistake," Martin said, his voice suddenly cold. "You have 24 hours to bring me what was in that box, or I'll make sure you and Emily take the fall for everything Richard did." The line went dead. I sat in my car, surrounded by the ruins of my life, wondering how I'd been so blind for so long. Script part separator ===. I needed to find Emily before they did. I tried her roommates again. "Mrs. Harrington, I swear I don't know where she is," Zoe insisted. "She packed a bag yesterday and said she was meeting someone important about her videos." Who? Who was she meeting? Some guy who wanted to interview her.
Thomas something.
My blood turned to ice. Thomas Preston? Yeah, that sounds right.
How did you know?
I hung up and floored the accelerator. Thomas Preston wasn't just any businessman. He was the CEO of Preston Financial, the company suing us, the company Richard had apparently stolen from. And now he had my daughter. I called Emily again. This time, someone answered. "Hello, Barbara." A man's voice. Smooth, confident. "Where's my daughter?" "She's perfectly safe. We're having a fascinating conversation about her father's business practices. If you hurt her, please. I'm a businessman, not a monster. I simply want what's mine. $15 million to be precise. Your husband stole it. The evidence your daughter unknowingly revealed in her video gave us the final piece we needed. I want to speak to Emily." "Mom?" Emily's voice came through, shaky but strong. "What's happening?" "Mr. Preston says Dad stole money from his company." "Emily, listen to me. Where are you?" "The Preston Financial office is downtown." "Mom, did Dad really?" The phone was taken away. 24 hours, Barbara, Thomas Preston said. "Bring the USB drive and account information to my office, or I'll have no choice but to give the FBI everything I have on you and Richard, including evidence suggesting you were an active participant. That's a lie.
Is it?
The courts might find it interesting that you signed as a director on 3 of the shell companies Richard used to move our money. Your signature, Barbara, on legal documents. My mind raced. I had signed papers for Richard over the years, never questioning what they were. Mom, what's he talking about? Emily called out in the background. 24 hours, Preston repeated, then hung up. I sat in my car, paralyzed with fear and fury. I had until tomorrow to decide, surrender the money and save Emily, or fight back against the men who were trying to destroy us. Script part separator ===. I needed help, but who could I trust? Not Martin. Not the FBI. Not even our family friends, who were already distancing themselves after Emily's videos went viral. There was only one person who might know the truth about Richard's business, his former assistant, Vanessa Chen. She'd quit 3 months before Richard's fatal heart attack, with no explanation. At the time, I thought nothing of it. I drove to the address I had for her, a small apartment in a part of town Richard would have sneered at. She opened the door, looking unsurprised to see me. I wondered when you'd show up, she said, stepping aside to let me in. Her apartment was sparse, but neat. On her living room wall hung a framed photo that made me stop cold. Vanessa and Richard, laughing together at what looked like a company retreat. He was a complicated man, Vanessa said, following my gaze. Did you know? I asked. About the fraud? The money? She gestured for me to sit down. I knew enough to get out before it all collapsed. I tried to warn him that Preston was catching on, but Richard thought he was untouchable. Why didn't you go to the authorities? Because I cared about him, she said simply. And because he convinced me that Preston was the real criminal. That everything he did was justified.
Was it?
Vanessa hesitated. You should see this. She opened her laptop and pulled up a file. 2 years ago, Preston Financial was about to collapse. Thomas Preston had gambled with client money and lost everything. Richard discovered this during due diligence for a potential merger. So Richard blackmailed him? I guessed. Worse. He offered to fix the problem by creating a complex financial structure that made the losses disappear. In exchange, Richard skimmed millions. Then they're both guilty. Yes. But Preston had political connections Richard lacked. When things started unraveling, Richard knew he'd be the scapegoat. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. We're watching Emily. Clock is ticking. I showed Vanessa. They have my daughter. Her expression hardened. Then we need to move fast. Richard left me something too, something Preston would kill for. Script part separator ===. She pulled out a small red flash drive. Richard gave me this the day I quit. Said if anything happened to him, I should keep it safe until you came looking. What's on it? Evidence of Preston's original fraud. Recordings of their meetings. The real reason your husband took that money. My hands shook as I took it. This could save us? Or destroy everyone involved. Preston Martin, your husband's legacy, and possibly you. I thought about Emily, sitting in Preston's office, her whole worldview crumbling as she learned what her father had done. The same way mine had. I need to get her away from Preston, I said. Vanessa nodded. I have an idea. But you'll need to be ready to run afterward. Once we use what's on these drives, there's no going back. We spent the next hour formulating a plan. Vanessa would create a digital backup of both drives, with instructions to release everything to federal authorities and the media if anything happened to me or Emily. Meanwhile, I would meet Preston, ostensibly to hand over the money. I just need to make one stop first, I told her. 20 minutes later, I was back at my house, my museum to Richard, as Emily had called it. I went straight to his office, to the portrait of us on our 20th anniversary. Behind it was a wall safe I'd never opened. Richard had told me the combination on his deathbed, though I hadn't understood why it mattered then. I entered the numbers. November 22nd, 09. Emily's birthday. Inside was a gun, an envelope full of cash, and another letter. For the darkest day, it read. I knew then that Richard had anticipated everything, Even this moment. Script part separator equals. I took the gun and cash, then headed back to my car, my mind racing with the plan Vanessa and I had devised. It wasn't just about saving Emily anymore. It was about exposing the truth. All of it. As I drove toward Preston Financial's gleaming downtown headquarters, my phone rang. Martin again. Barbara, where the hell are you? Have you lost your mind threatening Preston? How do you know I threatened Preston? I asked, though I already knew the answer. A pause.
He called me.
We're partners, Barbara. We always have been. Partners in stealing millions. It wasn't stealing, Martin hissed. It was surviving. Preston was going to destroy us all with his recklessness. Richard did what was necessary. By becoming just as corrupt? By playing the game. This isn't the time for moral stands, Barbara. Preston has Emily. Bring him the drives, let him have the money, and walk away while you still can. I pulled into the underground parking garage of Preston Financial. I'm handling this my way, Martin. Your way will get you both killed. Barbara, listen. I hung up and tucked Richard's gun into my purse. The weight of it felt alien against my hip as I walked toward the elevator. I'd never fired a gun in my life. Richard had been the one who insisted on keeping it for protection. Now I understood what he'd really feared. The elevator doors opened on the 42nd floor. A receptionist smiled professionally. Mrs. Harrington, Mr. Preston is expecting you. She led me down a hallway lined with awards and financial certificates, all testaments to a success built on fraud. The double doors at the end opened to reveal Thomas Preston sitting behind a massive desk. And there was Emily, pale but unharmed, sitting across from him.
Mom.
She jumped up. Hello, Barbara, Preston said, not bothering to stand. I believe you have something for me. Script part separator equals. I glanced at Emily, trying to convey that she should stay calm. Let her go first, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. Preston smiled. That's not how this works. The drive's first. Mom, what's going on? Emily's voice trembled. He says Dad stole money, that you knew about it. Your father made some bad decisions, I said carefully. But Mr. Preston isn't telling you the whole story. Preston's smile vanished. Enough games. The drives, now, or I call my security team. I reached into my purse, feeling the cold metal of Richard's gun. Instead, I pulled out the red flash drive Vanessa had given me. This contains everything, I said. Account numbers, passwords. But I want to see what's on it first. To make sure Richard didn't leave any surprises. Preston's eyes narrowed. Fine. But make it quick. I walked around to his computer. As I plugged in the drive, I positioned myself between Preston and Emily. The files appeared on screen. One was labeled Preston Fraud, Original Evidence. What the hell is this? Preston lunged forward. The truth, I said, clicking on the file. Video began to play, Preston and Richard in this very office 3 years ago. If anyone finds out what you've done, you'll go to prison for decades. Richard's voice filled the room. No one will find out, Preston replied on screen. Just fix it like we discussed. Take your cut. Everyone wins. I turned to face the real Preston, whose face had drained of color. Did Emily know her father was blackmailing you? That you were defrauding your own investors before he got involved? Emily stared at the screen in horror. Dad was part of this? Preston reached for his desk phone. I'm calling security. That's when I pulled out Richard's gun. Script part separator equals. I'm calling security. That's when I pulled out Richard's gun. Preston froze, his hand hovering over the phone. Emily gasped.
Mom.
What are you doing? Getting us out of here, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. Emily, come stand by me. She hesitated, looking between Preston and me like she wasn't sure which of us was more dangerous. Emily, now. She moved slowly to my side, and I felt a rush of relief. You're making a terrible mistake, Preston said, his businessman's composure cracking. You think you can just walk out of here? That's exactly what we're going to do, I replied. And you're going to let us, because this drive isn't the only copy. If anything happens to me or my daughter, everything goes public. The FBI, the SEC, every financial news outlet in the country. Preston's jaw clenched. I was just trying to save my company. By stealing from your clients, I said. And then letting my husband take the fall. Your husband was no saint, Barbara. I never said he was. Richard made terrible choices. But he also made sure the truth wouldn't die with him. I backed toward the door, keeping the gun steady. Emily close beside me. Mom, she whispered, you're scaring me. It's going to be okay, I told her, though I had no idea if that was true. As we reached the door, it suddenly swung open. Martin stood there, eyes widening at the sight of the gun in my hand. Barbara, what have you done? Before I could answer, Preston lunged for his desk drawer. I heard Emily scream as he pulled out his own gun. 3 things happened simultaneously. Martin shouted no. Emily grabbed my arm, and I pulled the trigger. Script part separator . The sound was deafening in the enclosed office. Preston stumbled backward, clutching his shoulder as blood seeped through his expensive suit. Drop the gun, I shouted, surprised by my own authority. His weapon clattered to the floor. Emily was trembling against me, her face buried in my shoulder. Martin stood frozen in the doorway. Barbara, we need to get out of here.
Now.
Security will have heard the shot. For once, I agreed with him. Keeping my gun trained on Preston, I backed toward the door, pulling Emily with me. You'll never get away with this. Preston gasped through his pain. I have connections you can't imagine. So do I replied. And mine have copies of everything Richard collected about you. We rushed to the emergency stairwell, Martin leading the way. As we descended, Emily finally found her voice. You shot him. You actually shot someone. He was going to shoot us first, I said. The reality of our situation was sinking in. I'd just shot one of the most powerful men in the city.
We were fugitives now.
Where are we going? Emily asked as we reached the parking garage. Somewhere safe, I answered, though I wasn't sure such a place existed anymore. Martin pulled out his phone. I can call in some favors, get you both out of the country until... I pointed the gun at him.
Put the phone down, Martin.
His eyes widened. Barbara, what are you doing? Following Richard's advice. He told me not to trust you. Martin's face changed, the mask of concern slipping to reveal something colder. What exactly did Richard tell you? Script part separator . Everything. About your 20% cut. About how you helped him set up the offshore accounts. How you'd throw me to the wolves if things went bad. You don't understand, Martin said, his voice harder now. Richard and I had an arrangement. And now you have an arrangement with Preston, I guessed. That's why you're here. You tipped him off. Martin's silence was confirmation enough. Mom, what's happening? Emily's voice cracked. Your father's best friend has been playing both sides, I told her, never taking my eyes off Martin. He helped your father hide money, then betrayed him when things got tough. That's not true, Martin protested, but I could see the lie in his eyes. Where were you the week before Richard died? I asked suddenly, a terrible suspicion forming.
What?
I was in Chicago on business. You know that. With Preston? His face gave him away. Oh my God, I whispered. Did you have something to do with Richard's heart attack? That's insane, Martin snapped, but sweat beaded on his forehead. Richard had a heart condition. It was natural causes.
Was it?
Or did you and Preston decide he was too big a liability? Emily gasped. Mom, you can't seriously think. The parking garage echoed with the sound of approaching security. We didn't have time for this now. Get in the car, I told Emily.
Both of you.
I drove us to the one place I knew would be safe. Vanessa's apartment. Martin protested the entire way, but with Richard's gun still in my hand, he had little choice. When we arrived, Vanessa was waiting. She didn't seem surprised to see Martin. I figured he might be involved, she said calmly. You, Martin spat. I should have known. Emily looked between them, confusion etched on her face. Who is she? Mom, what's going on? I worked for your father, Vanessa explained. I was there when all of this started. Inside the apartment, I finally lowered the gun, though I kept it close. Emily sat on the couch, looking small and lost. Martin paced like a caged animal. "The FBI will be looking for you now," he warned. "You shot Preston." In self-defense, I countered. "And I have the video evidence to prove it, along with everything else." Vanessa's laptop pinged with an incoming email. "It's done," she announced. "The evidence is uploaded to the cloud, with instructions to release it all if anything happens to any of us." Martin sank into a chair, defeat washing over him. "You don't understand what you've done." "I understand perfectly," I replied. "For the first time since Richard died, I see everything clearly." I turned to Emily, whose viral videos had accidentally triggered this cascade of revelations. "I'm sorry you had to learn about your father this way." Tears filled her eyes. "Was anything about our family real?" I sat beside her and took her hand.
Yes.
"His love for you is real. And so is mine." 3 days later, we walked into the FBI field office together, Emily, Vanessa, and me. Martin and Preston had already been arrested, the evidence we provided too overwhelming to ignore. As we sat in the conference room, preparing to give our statements, my phone buzzed with a notification. Emily's latest video had just hit 10 million views. The title, "How I Discovered My Father's Secret Life and Saved My Mother from Taking the Fall." Some family secrets, it turned out, were meant to be revealed after all. The courtroom fell silent as I approached the stand. 3 months had passed since the day I shot Thomas Preston. Now we were all here, Preston, Martin, several of Richard's former associates, and even some of the investors who'd lost millions, for the final day of testimony in what the media had dubbed the Harrington financial scandal. I'd already pleaded guilty to a reduced charge of reckless endangerment for the shooting. In exchange for my cooperation, the prosecutor had recommended probation instead of jail time. Emily sat in the front row, her face a mixture of pride and concern. Beside her was Vanessa, whose testimony had been crucial in unraveling the entire scheme. The evidence she and Richard had collected proved that Preston's original fraud had been the catalyst for everything that followed. "Mrs. Harrington," the prosecutor began, "in your own words, please tell the court when you first became aware of your husband's illegal activities." I took a deep breath. "I didn't know until after he died. He kept me in the dark deliberately. And yet you signed documents for several shell companies used in the scheme."
Yes.
Richard would tell me they were routine business papers. I trusted him completely. From the defense table, Martin stared at me with hatred. He'd refused any plea deal, insisting he was just following Richard's instructions. Preston, meanwhile, had turned state's evidence, agreeing to testify against everyone in exchange for a reduced sentence. "Would you say your late husband was a good man who made bad choices, or a criminal who happened to be a good husband and father?" the prosecutor asked. The courtroom seemed to hold its breath. It was the question I'd been asking myself for months. "I believe he was a good man who made a terrible choice, then couldn't find his way back," I said finally. "He tried to protect us from his mistakes, but in doing so, he only made things worse." After I stepped down, Emily squeezed my hand. "You did great, Mom." The jury deliberated for just 4 hours before returning with guilty verdicts for Martin and 3 other executives. Preston, despite his cooperation, was sentenced to 5 years. I received 3 years probation and community service. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed us. "Mrs. Harrington, how does it feel to have your family's dirty laundry aired so publicly?" I was about to respond when Emily stepped forward. "Our family wasn't dirty," she said clearly. "It was complicated. My dad made terrible mistakes, but my mom had the courage to face the truth and fight for justice. That's the legacy I'm choosing to carry forward." As cameras flashed around us, I felt a weight lifting. The Harrington fortune was gone, seized by the government to help repay the victims. The mansion had been sold. My social standing had evaporated. But standing there with my daughter, I realized we'd gained something more valuable, the truth and a chance to rebuild on a foundation of honesty. 6 months later, Emily and I sat in our small apartment, watching her newest video reach 1 million views in just 2 hours. But this wasn't about family drama or scandal. It was the first episode of her new series on financial literacy and ethical business practices, funded by a book deal she'd signed to tell our story. "Do Do you think Dad would be proud? She asked as we watched the comments pour in. I thought about Richard, the man I'd loved, the criminal I'd never known, and the father who'd tried, in his flawed way, to protect his daughter. I think he'd be proud of who you've become despite his mistakes, I said finally. I know I am. As we sat there together, my phone buzzed with a text from Vanessa. Just got word. Martin's appealing his conviction. Claims he has new evidence about Richard. I showed it to Emily, who sighed. Will this ever really be over? I put my arm around her shoulders. Some stories don't have neat endings, sweetheart. But we're writing our own chapters now. And for the first time since that day I'd seen Emily's viral video and my world had shattered, I truly believed we would be okay.